Kevin, I'll turn it over to you.
Hi, everybody. My name is Kevin Reynolds. I'm the chair for the state for the Unified Tennis. Welcome to our little session here. Also on the call is the assistant chair, Allie. Well, Allie, is it Rack or Rock?
It's actually Rock.
That's what I thought,
Rock.
so I wanted to say it right. I've always said Rack. So, Allie, Rock. And obviously, Melissa Kelly is on here, the Scholastic Sports Head for the state. We're going to go through here our district tournament operations manual. We're not going to go through every single word, read it line by line. We want to get you guys going so you know exactly what we're doing to get ready for these tournaments. I apologize now for my voice. I've developed a nasty little cold, so you'll have to bear with me. And you should also know that this entire webinar is being recorded, so for others to hear at a later time. Would you like to go from there, Melissa?
Great. Thanks, Kevin. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm going to cover more so of the operations component of what you will be preparing in order to host a successful district tournament. So before I get started, I wanted to, on behalf of Special Olympics Maryland, thank you for all of the time that you've put in thus far and will going forward to host successful tournaments, which are the culminating events for approximately 2/3 of the student athletes competing in unified tennis. So thank you for that. The intro, as Kevin said, I'm not going to go over all of this information line by line. I'm going to touch on the more pertinent items. With that, I'll point out on this specific page, the tournament director, which has been designated for each of the tournaments we will host. He or she does then have the discretion of hosting and is encouraged to do so, designating an assistant tournament director to help with the efforts. In addition, we would also strongly encourage you to utilize the athletics director or the athletics department staff, as well as the administration to play a part in preparation and or ceremonies at the tournament itself. Our goal is to conduct the tournaments just as we would for any advanced competition for varsity athletics. So please keep that in mind in your preparation. Special Olympics Maryland has designated or allocated a small stipend to pay to the tournament director if you are not in a position of a district representative or a member of the athletics department, so athletics director, assistant athletics director. So anyone outside of or administration, anyone outside of those roles, if they are activated as being tournament personnel, we have an allocation of 2 people who could receive a stipend for their efforts in hosting. We realize these are added duties, and we appreciate your efforts, as I've said, and we want to pay you monetarily for your time as well. So please, as you designate these persons, you need to let me know in advance of the tournament, as we need to have them complete our requisite clearances and make sure that we have the necessary tax ID information and such within our system. So with that said, some of the roles, as I mentioned, assistant tournament director would be someone who could support you with your efforts and ceremonies and or, for example, running the individual skills competition. The next page is quite simply an overview of the Special Olympics components, being the mission, our philosophy, Special Olympics Maryland's vision, as well as our values. So those are offered there for you to read on your own time, and we'll go into that detail during this session. Next page is quite simply the points of contact. So the district representatives, each person in the role this year has had at least 1 year of tenure, with the exception of our friend Laura Hines in District 10. She coached last year but is new to this position this year. So I reference those individuals as they, if it's not you yourself, can serve as viable references when conducting the tournament. And then as well, special command staff and how our staff is assigned to geographic locations throughout the state. These people are your points of reference, and you should work closely with them in preparations for the tournament, and then as well for the management of the tournament when the time comes. Ceremonies. In 1988, Special Olympics was recognized by the IOC, the International Olympic Committee. With that, we need to incorporate 3 components in every competition that we host, and that is opening ceremony, award ceremony, and closing ceremony. So this is an important entity of the tournament. It's one that, when conducted well, and deserves advanced preparation, because when conducted well, it really sets a tone for the day, for the tournament, and provides the sense of prestige that all of the student athletes certainly deserve as their season comes to, their regular season comes to a close and they compete for the advancement to the state tournament. So please do review this section. I underscore the to-do task to recruit a proper master of mistress of ceremonies. This is commonly an administrator who will come out and will present and really do a good job of, as I said, setting the tone for the day. We have had experiences in which student athletes have served in this capacity. If that is the case, please make sure, really regardless of who is serving in this capacity, make sure that he or she, or if it's a pair, that they do have the script well in advance so they can practice and they are well prepared, and again, can provide the prestige the tournament deserves. The next few pages are quite simply the script for opening ceremony. There are spaces in which you would write in the sections that are relevant specifically to your tournament, so know that that needs to be in advance of handing the script over. Commonly, this is something that can be done just before opening starts, but certainly does have the need to be looked over by both the MC and you yourself prior to, so that you can make sure you're adequately prepared. The section at the bottom of the page that's currently on display is for an honor guard. So another component that adds a level of prestige is to recruit an honor guard. So many of our schools do have ROTC programs and such that you can certainly contact and have them out. It's a great element and is different ways of having the entire campus involved. Moving on, you'll see various references to both school name and mascot through the entire script. So much like you would with your varsity sports programs, please do reference the mascot. It's not something that is commonly thought of, but we do want to make sure that these student athletes are recognized for representing their school, and with that, of course, is the acknowledgement of their mascot. Moving on, the last page of the script is quite simply the different components in which, or the different roles in which you will recruit people to fulfill. So with that, we have the official's oath. So we will, this would be somebody who would be in a scoring capacity or tournament management capacity. Ideally, it would not be you nor the assistant director, as you will be need to be made available if any issues were to come up that you that your attention needs to go to, rather than the function of offering the official's oath. So that's something to have in mind. Coach's oath is typically can be any of the coaches, and again, this is intended to have several copies of this available on hand, so you can quite simply provide this, hand this printed copy to the individuals fulfilling the role, so that they're adequately prepared. Athlete's oath, for this, we are looking for an athlete partner pair. to offer the athlete oath. This is the Special Olympics athlete oath that dates back to 1968. And opening the games, the script is currently written as for the MC to open the games, but if there is someone in of prestige that you would like to offer this element, this role, you certainly have the discretion to do so. Award ceremonies, similar to opening ceremonies. If you are in a spot that you have some background noise, we just heard an announcement. If you could select *6 to mute your line, we would appreciate it. Award ceremonies, every student athlete is awarded at the end of their competition for their place of finish. This is an element that we are required by the IOC recognition to fulfill. Awards will be provided from my office and mailed to you directly. Place of finish would be gold, silver, bronze, and then ribbons for places thereafter all the way to 8th place. We may not have all 8 places. However, it may be the case. So please do take the time to read this section to make sure that you are adequately familiar with the award expectations. The following pages are then the protocol for awards. This goes through the formality of how the awards presentations should occur. You will have someone from the Special Olympics Maryland office, or Kevin Reynolds, the Unified Tennis Chair, or Allie Rock, the Unified Tennis Assistant Chair, on site, and we are all quite familiar with this process, so we will happily help with this. That's not to say that we will own this entirely. It is something that does deserve some advanced preparation, but it can be, and certainly is fully acceptable to be, a presentation on the tennis courts. So all the information is there, as well as the announcer's script, again referencing the mascot. The awards are presented in reverse place of finish, so starting with the highest place to finish and continuing to the gold medalist team. Some of you are hosting tournaments with visiting school systems, so the next 2 pages is a listing of all of the mascots for the participating school systems, schools. There are a couple of gaps, specifically in Anne Arundel County, so Tim, I apologize for that. If you could let me know that information, I would happily update my records. So again, just reference to the mascots. Tournament management. A few things here. This is more of an advanced preparation element, so a few things to touch on. Admission. Special Olympics was founded as a free program. We function and operate through grants, donations, fundraising, so on and so forth. So it's intended to be free of charge for the participants, and we have extended that on to admission for the event. So please know, no gates, no parking fees, or any similar fees. We hope that mom and dad and anyone else who wants to spectate will come out and do so, and will not have a fee related to that. Artificial noisemakers, just a note there to remind everyone that tennis is a quote-unquote gentleman's sport, if you will, so I want to make sure that everyone realizes that artificial noisemakers are not allowed. Please do make sure, if any situations occur in which a spectator is using one, that you intervene and make sure that they are aware of that expectation. National anthem, consistent with really all sporting events. Please do arrange for a national anthem to be played. Along with the color guard, we can certainly encourage you to offer a performance of the national anthem, but please do caution you to vet those persons or individual to make sure that the anthem is performed adequately and satisfactorily. Neutrality. While some of the schools that are hosting are participating, I want just to remind everyone, if you are associated with a school, that it is imperative that you maintain neutrality and do not create a home atmosphere. So we appreciate your efforts to do so. Alcohol and tobacco references there, those are obvious and self-explanatory, as is the Americans with Disabilities Act. Please do know, I want to make sure everyone realizes that we do have some student athletes that do use wheelchairs, so that might be something if there are steps or a lengthy walk perhaps from the bus drop-off location to the courts that need to be considered or would be troublesome for people that use wheelchairs. Please make note of that and perhaps request from the coaches who will be attending if they do have anyone traveling who uses a wheelchair, so that we can make the necessary accommodations in advance and it's not a rushed, unprepared accommodation. Concessions, please do, if you would like, you are fully welcome and encouraged, in fact, to offer concessions. The tournaments run a span of, I think the quickest we've ever completed a district tournament is 3.5 hours. So 3.5 to 4 hours is about average. So certainly in that time, food and beverage would be warranted for student athletes as well as the coaches and spectators. So please do work with your booster clubs or any other entities to arrange for concessions. Directional signage. For the most part, our campuses that are hosting do have adequate directional signs, or it's fairly obvious how to get to the tennis courts, but please do consider that, especially if you have visiting schools with following spectators that may have not been to your campus. If it is difficult or there's an easier route than the main entrance, for example, that is made clear ahead of time. One last note with regard to tournament management, I'll say with that, not all tennis courts do have adequate seating, so please in your advanced communication to the participating teams, do note if there is bleacher seating, no seating whatsoever, if they need to bring chairs. Likewise for teams, if it's encouraged that they bring blankets perhaps and that sort of thing. Coaches are typically to think ahead, but any clarification of what to expect on site would certainly be helpful. With that said, moving on to Section 3, I'm going to cover the gold medalist allocations and then turn it back over to Kevin to go through the remaining topics. The gold medalist allocations are directly proportionate to the number of teams that are training statewide. So Allie Rock will be working with the district representative to collect an approximate count, hopefully as exact as humanly possible, a count of all of the teams that are training statewide, and then she will consult Kevin, who will provide the number of teams we can accommodate at the state tournament. And then it's a simple math equation from there, folks. So if, for example, 10% of all the teams training in the state come out of Baltimore City, then Baltimore City will receive 10% of the teams that we can accommodate at the state tournament. So then that may equate to 3 teams, so school teams advancing to the state tournament. So more to come on that. I'm sorry, we do not have any additional information to provide. I will add that this is a format in which we've used going on 3 years now, and it seems to be one that works adequately, and people are very satisfied with having the opportunity to earn advancement through the district tournament playoffs. Kevin, on to you.
Got it. Okay, let's start off with the coaches meeting when you guys get there. Your tournament director, just so you know, doesn't necessarily have to be you. It can be somebody, like, for example, Washington County. Barb is the district rep, but I run the Washington County, our district tournament for her. She's still in charge of it. I just run the tournament. So if you're uncomfortable with actually running it, get somebody else that you are comfortable with. Make sure you have a brief meeting there before everything starts. Would you like to go down to supplement A, Melissa, real quick? There you go. Just go over, your agenda, what you're going to be doing throughout the day, because it can be a long process. Your staging procedure, where you're going to have everybody, where you're going to have your opening ceremonies, when you're going to have your closing ceremonies. What a lot of us, what we like to do, we found we keep in contact with the coaches, so if we know a match is about to end, you can have the kids that are playing in the next match have some chairs out for them by your main hub, so your base operations, so we can get them out immediately, keep the day moving, especially if it's cool out. You definitely need to have a rules committee, even if it's maybe only 2 or 3 people, in case there are disagreements about certain things, so one person doesn't have to make all of the, basically all decisions. Review your protest procedure. That's pretty simple. And basically anything else that you find important. However, part of the things you're going to is like just how many courts you have, how quickly things will go, how much time you're going to have between matches, something as little as even where bathrooms are for everybody. And that's pretty much your coaches meeting. It's pretty straightforward, just to make sure everybody's on the same page. Any questions on that at all? Excellent. Roster consistency. When you show up, your roster must be the same roster that you turned in for the postseason tournament registration. You can't just stick in other random players, even if they're of the same rating. We need the actual people that you entered. Now, we have scratches every year, so what happens is we don't like our players to not be able to play. So you can substitute somebody, but you will not be eligible to earn a point. The other team could earn a point if they win, but you will not earn a point even if you do win. Does that make sense to everybody? Excellent. So our competition brackets. Ideally, we'll have one division for each gold medalist allocation. Sometimes that doesn't work if there's ends up not being enough teams. If we need to send more people to the state tournament, you have, a brainchild of how you'd like to do that. Make sure you get a hold of myself or Allie or both of us and let us know what you want to do. If it's something that's necessary, then we can go through that and figure out a plan. Would you like to go down to supplement B, Melissa? Okay, so here's where things get fun. I've been personally doing this for many years, so to me, this is sort of second nature. To people that have never done this, this is all somewhat Greek. We want you to know you're not on your own with this. I will gladly help you go through it when you're done, fix things that are necessary. Last year, most of the districts, they would send it in to myself and Allie. We'd go through, and she more looks at registrations to make sure they're correct. I look through to make sure everything we're about to go over is correct, because it's very simple to miss something. And to be honest, we had one last year that had to be completely redone. So what we're asking this year is when you do schedule your tournament, please have it scheduled a minimum of 3 days before your actual tournament. That would give us plenty of time to go through it, look at it, make sure everything's legit and working, so that we don't have a situation where your tournament's Wednesday, you set it Tuesday night, and I realized then that the whole thing needs to be started over because this can take a considerable amount of time. It takes me a few hours to do one of these. You know, for you folks that are new to this, this can be, I wouldn't say daunting, but it takes a good amount of time. So try to give us a minimum of 3 days to approve this. So we'll go through this a little bit at a time here. A school team is composed of 3 to 5 doubles pairs and then countless numbers of individual skills players. Obviously, we know the two people are part of as partners and must be an athlete and a partner. We will have our 4 different events, the red balls on the short court, orange ball, green ball, and yellow ball. So your number of flights will depend on your gold medal allocations from your area. I believe you guys in talks with us and Allie figure out how many gold medals, how many flights you're going to have. So you need however many gold medal allocations you are, you have to have a flight for each. You want to try and keep the numbers in each of them even as much as you can because we don't want a lot of exhibition matches. So if you have teams with 5 doubles pairs, try to keep them all together, 4 doubles pairs together, 3 doubles pairs together. What I do is I put the 5s together, the 3s together, and then mix and match 4s in there as best as we can to try and make it even for everybody. This is something, again, that if right off the bat you're struggling with that, get a hold of me right away. Shoot me an email, call me, and say, hey, I have this. How would you split these up? Because all the rest of this does not work if you don't have your flights separated correctly. Many of you are going to have schools then that have more than one team. So in our example here, we have Clear Spring having a team 1 and team 2. Do your best to have them separate. We've had to sometimes put them in the same one. Say those Clear Spring teams each have 5 double teams as part of their overall, and everybody else has 3s, or it doesn't work to have those 5s mixed in with 3s because there's going to be a boatload of exhibitions. But try as much as you can to have them in separate flights. Make sure also, one of our issues we had last year with one of the districts is they separated their flights, but they didn't take a look at what all the individual schools were playing. So what happened was they had 3 teams with red balls all from the same school with nobody to play. So that's also something you need to look at when you're making your flights. Are there going to be opportunities for these people to play? Because if all your reds are in one flight and then you have just like 2 reds in the other flight, they're not going to have anybody to play. So you want to really keep that in mind also. So again, this sounds like a lot, but I really want you to look at it and start to see, hey, this match is here, this match is here, over here. It's really not super complicated. Would you like to go on, Melissa? Okay, our match schedule then. So your registration will get you in Excel. I believe that's going to come from Allie. She'll have that. Create a column indicating the assigned flight for each doubles pair. Sort the registration spreadsheet by flight and combine team rating. Doubles pairs should only play other doubles pairs within the same flight. So if you do have flight 1, flight 2, or even flight 3, you can't just mix and match. Because they're essentially, say you did have 3 flights, they're essentially 3 individual tournaments. But they're all for their own gold medal and they're all slot into the state tournament. So you have to treat them as such, as though they're all completely different tournaments just being played at the same time. We have to have opponents that have rating events to compete in the same event. Red balls have to play red balls. Oranges must play oranges, greens, yellows. Once in a while, something crazy will happen. Like we have an odd number of green balls, and occasionally people may have to play each other twice. That's also very rare, but if you're in a district where there's not many teams, that could happen. We obviously want to avoid that as much as we can. Each doubles pair it does not should play 2 matches. They are to play 2 matches, even if one of them counts as an exhibition. And occasionally, you might even, depending on your number of teams entered, 1 or 2 of them might even have to play a 3rd match so that the other teams can get in there too. In that case, the team that's playing a 3rd match, they are not eligible for a point. So even if they would win, they won't get the point. But if the other team wins, they'll still get their point. We want to post as close a rating as possible with so many pairs. The ratings might have a wide range, which happens always, especially towards the top of the greens and yellows. The reds are all roughly the same. So what I do is I will take all of those ratings, okay, all the teams, I put them in an Excel sheet, and I just start cutting and pasting, and I put them all in order. That way, start at the top, 12, 12, 13, 14, 14, 15, 16. It's very simple then to just go through and have these 2 teams, then the next 2 teams play, then the next 2 teams, then the next 2 teams. When you go back through for their 2nd match, I'll have the 1st and 3rd, then the 2nd and 4th, things like that. So we have teams that are very close in score playing each other. That way you don't have a 12 playing a 20. The fact is, a 12 and 20 is a broad range. So we want to keep them as closely as you can. Have a 12 play another 12, or a 12 playing a 13 or 14. Again, when you get to green and yellow, there's not many teams rated that high, so it starts to get a little crazy. So do your best. Again, if this is something that, if you're unsure about it, uneasy about it, send it to me. I can even quickly throw those things together for you and say, here, take this. Now you can go ahead and make your matches from this. So your doubles pairs need a minimum of 30 minutes after each match. You'll see later on when we look at some actual brackets here, we actually added a time. I just write it over in the side. So we actually added a time column. So write down the time that they finished. That way you know when a match comes up later, you can look up there and say, well, hey, this team only finished 20 minutes ago. We can't start yet. Sorry about that. Alternate flights on the schedule. The first 8 matches should be your first flight. And then you can do the next set of matches can be flight 2. So that way we don't end up with, man, I'm sorry, my throat's really going bad here. We, 1 second, gotta get a drink of water. I apologize for that. What I actually do is I don't necessarily do the first 8. The first 8 I do have in the flight, but I actually will finish all the matches in that flight first, then go to the 2nd flight, even if that's like match 11, match 14. So that way you've got 1 tournament going, and then the next tournament starts, and then you're eventually going to go back. Otherwise, you start having a big problem with times, this, that, and the other. You might have somebody play early and not play again forever. It creates big problems. So try to do one of your flights, all the first round matches of a flight go first, and then the next flight, all those first rounds go. And then the second round of the flight 1, and then the second round of flight 2. You'll find things will go a lot easier. Make sure your result sheets are turned into the control table immediately. I write down the end time right on it, and on the schedule that you have printed out. Very simple way to keep track of time along with everything else. And make sure everybody then plays once before anybody plays twice. That's very simple. If you go and do everybody from flight 1, and then everybody from flight 2, that's pretty easy to get done. There shouldn't be any issues with that. Double pairs, the same team, are not to compete against each other. We want to keep the schools apart, like we had Clearstream 1 and Clearstream 2 in the same flight, but you definitely cannot have somebody from Clearstream 1 playing Clearstream 1, because then they only have a possibility of 1 point. I mean, that was pretty obvious, but we've had somebody in the past that did that, thinking that the way this is all written, that was all right. But obviously, just like any other sport, you wouldn't have the North High football team playing the North High football team. Would you like to go on, Melissa? I always color code all the schools. It makes it so easy to locate them. Like literally, you're going to see once we get down that we color code everything. Makes it very simple to find. I even make, like, say I have one here like Clear Spring. I'll make 2 different colors of yellow. Williamsport team 1 is blue. I wouldn't make Williamsport 2 team 2 green, but I would make them a different color of blue. So still on the same theme. Make sure you list your flight rating color for each team every match. That way, as you're going through, it's so much faster. To pick the balls out that go with the match. What we do, Bar prints out all the matches ahead of time. We can just, once you print out the papers, then we print the things on there, we can find everything, put down the color. We can go ahead and stick the balls out with the clipboard, so everything goes so smoothly. Schedule your first 8 matches for a specific court. If you have 8 courts, schedule the first 8. Go ahead and put 1 through 8 on there. If you only have 6, put 1 through 6 on there. After that, make it a first come, first serve. The one thing you need to avoid that just really doesn't work, whether we're doing unified tennis, whether I'm at one of my national level USTA tournaments, is scheduling a court. Because you might have a court that plays forever. Now that whole court, everybody the rest of the day is backed up forever. So you want to just keep in the line of the schedule of your matches, keep them in order, and always first available court is that next match. That way you don't run into any of that where court 8, for example, is done in 2 hours. Meanwhile, court 4 is still in the first match. So that can just literally be a total nightmare for everybody involved. So just as courts end, you see an empty court, it comes in, the score sheet comes in, get the next match on the schedule out to that court. So here's a big one here, number 3, scoring options. This is where we really had some issues last year. Each team within each flight must have the same number of scoring opportunities. So if you're in one of your flights where all the schools have 5 doubles teams, okay? So that'd be 5 times 2 matches. Each one should have 10 scoring opportunities. So you need to make sure that happens. If you have a flight with 2 5s and 2 4s, then the 4s can only get 8 opportunities. So you have to make sure that the teams with 5 are going to have to play some exhibition matches. Otherwise, they're going to have 10 opportunities and more than likely win the flight just because they have more teams. So that's something you really got to look at. And that's another thing that I will gladly look at and say, hey, okay, so here we are. This is what you need to do. Let's do it. Okay? Just let me know. I'll let you know who needs to play exhibitions against who to make it so you can always make it work. You just have to really it's very meticulous with your detail to make sure that all teams have the same. Every match counts, scoring opportunity. Now, in individual skills, if you have somebody that's competing in individual skills, that alone counts as an opportunity. So now all of a sudden, we have to have, say I've got a team with 4 doubles teams and they're throwing in individual skills. All of a sudden, now they've got 9 opportunities. So what has to happen is that individual skill person, theirs will count as 1 opportunity, and you have to now make that team with 4 double teams, 1 of their 8 matches would be exhibition for them only. Okay? That way they've now got 7 chances plus their individual skills for a grand total of 8, giving them the same likelihood of a gold medal as everybody else. Again, it sounds crazy, it sounds complicated, but when you really start doing this and looking at it, especially if you get a hold of me, you'll see how it's really not that complicated at all. So, so we need to keep that. And on the next thing, it just says the teams, the same flight at various score opportunities, randomly designate matches, exhibition, equalizing them. Sometimes you're going to have to do that, and that's something we're going to go over here when we look at some of the tournaments where I've done that in the past. including our state tournament from last year. What you don't want to do is have the same doubles team play 2 exhibition matches. Split it up. So if you do have to have, you have those 5 doubles teams, don't have the same one play 2 exhibitions. Have 2 of those separate doubles teams each do 1 exhibition. So tournament best practice, pre-write, prepare the score sheets in advance will save you so much time, so much confusion. I think Barb actually last year, I think she actually did have them all printed ahead of time in order, because obviously your Excel sheet's already out with the order of play, so it can all just be done. It'll save you. I mean, I can't overemphasize how much time that will save you. Keep all paperwork neat and orderly. That goes without saying. That way, if you find something later on, like, oh, wait, we forgot to calculate this, you can find it very quickly, get it done, because that does come up. Tabulate team points and matches as they're received. What we do is on our table, I'll have the master that I consider this is legit. Well, we put down the score of the match, who won it. We put down, we have everything listed for the points to put them down. I even go ahead and start doing sets, loss, and all that jazz. We can set off and games lost. That way, if there is a tie, and we've had them almost every year at the end, you don't have to go back through now and retabulate everything. If you just do it every time it comes in, it's there, very simple to see. Then we take that, we transfer that up into a very large, basically poster board for spectators to see, all the coaches to see, the players to see at any given time. We try to keep that moving. It's something we even do at the state level so that everybody knows what's going on. We have about tabulating the sets lost, number of games lost. Just get that done. One thing, be certain the players check in at the start and end of every match. The scorekeeper should be with them, regardless of that is. This really helps organize things, make sure we have the score correct, make sure that we have the correct balls going out, because every once in a while, a match is supposed to be orange and somebody gives them green balls. The kids know what they're playing with. So if you see some eyebrows going up when you're handing them green balls, you might realize that, hey, they should have orange. Okay, we can go. There's a sample score sheet. Keep in mind this year on here that the third set is a 10-point super tiebreaker. You have to get to 10. That's a change from last year that you already know from this regular season. But we want to make sure at this level, with the states being going to states, we want to make sure that this is done correctly. That's another thing, back to something earlier about the pre-tournament meeting with coaches. You're going to want a pre-tournament meeting with all of your scorekeepers and whoever's going to be your referee on the court. Make sure that they're all on the same page. Make sure they know what they're doing, because we've had some before that we think they know what they're doing, but it turns out they don't. So make sure that they all understand how to score this. A quick meeting, tell them if they have a problem. They hold their clipboard high up in the air so that you, or as the director and administrator, the referee, somebody can come over and say, okay, this is where this is correct, or this is not correct. This is what you have to do. Because to be honest, we've had scorecards come back before that were wrong. The matches weren't over. They weren't played correctly. So we have to send them back out and make sure it's done correctly. So just keep an eye on that. Add that to your agenda. So here's a sample match schedule. This one was pretty straightforward here. This is a district one. I'm not sure from what year. One that I put together. You can see what'll happen here. You're going to see all of the Flight 1 matches played first. Then we went to the Flight 2. Then the rest of the Flight 1. Then the Flight 2. We had significant exhibition matches because the Clear Spring schools had so many entries. There was no other way around it to get them some matches. But everybody had equal scoring opportunities. So you can see where we had to score everything. So team scoring. You'll see here then that those Clear Spring teams each had 5 entries, especially in Flight 2. I didn't necessarily want to do it like this, but we decided that year to split the Clear Springs because there had been some confusion with the registration process. This was years ago. This wasn't recently where we've gotten this a little more streamlined. So you can see in Flight 2, North Hagerstown, Swissburg, South Hagerstown 3, each only had 3 entries. There were only 6 scoring opportunities. So the Clear Spring 2 with 5 entries would have had 10. So what we had to do was end up making 4 of their matches exhibition when they were not eligible for the point. Only the other school was. So just actually the other school played a 3rd match so that we could get those matches in. So actually neither team got it. I'm hoping this all makes sense to you guys. And then this was last year at states. So I had to color code what I did for what I do for states. You guys don't need to do this. You know the schools. I don't know every school in the state. So I got online and found all their school colors, and we did as good as we could with this. There we had 3 flights. Now there's some weird things at the beginning, flight A and B, because of some exhibition things. But from there, then you'll see all C, all A, all B, and then we keep going through like that. We have the individual skills down there. You're going to see various marks on it, like you'll see an N8, an NS, like on line 15. I'll even over on the match, I'll put in little superscripts so that then we can scroll down a little bit to the next page, which continues. Now you're going to see down here where I actually have all my superscripts listed with an exact explanation of why that is there. Why, and say 46Y, only Severna Park is eligible to earn a point in this match due to individual skills competition point for Perryville. So you're going to see that there. So then right by our cursor there, you're going to see Perryville with a big red NS. That's, again, to alert me, anybody that's writing up scores, to say, hey, non-scoring. Even if they win this match, they're not eligible for a point. Only Severna Park was. This is, again, a quick and easy way to keep very organized. Everybody understands exactly what's going on, and there's no red flags and question marks going up all over the place. You want to keep this simple, but at the same time detailed, just for flow, just so there's not a lot of controversy, because believe it or not, you all know by now, you're going to run into some coaches here and there that get a little bent out of shape. So, the more succinct you can make all this, the happier everybody's going to be. We can go one. So, the individual skills competition, make sure you have somebody there that, actually, before I start this, I want to go to one thing about the scorekeeper. The overall, when scores are coming in, your best bet is to pick one person, whether it's you, whether it's somebody else, that's going to keep track of all of the scores coming in and going out. Because when you start having multiple people doing it, it can get a little crazy because one person might see it differently than another. So the best thing to do is have one person in charge of all of the scorekeeping at your main table, at your base of operations, to make sure you don't have an issue with different points of view. Individual skills competition, make sure you have somebody there that knows how to set this up. You guys should know how. The players are allowed to have their own feeder, and we go through, and you end up somewhere at the point. We've had it in the past, there's only one person in it. Well, that person automatically is going to get a point. But if not, we go through the scorecard. You have, have a scorekeeper over there, and then the athlete with the highest score is going to get the point for just that. We don't have lots of those, but we have enough. So going back up. So keep going a little higher, a little higher. Okay, excellent. So about all of our skills. Okay, next page. Time limit. You guys, most of you shouldn't have a problem with this unless you run into rain, things like that. But what we've done in the past, if we feel there's so many entries, we'll put, say, a 40-minute, 45-minute time limit on a match. So what we'll sometimes do then is in like the top left of the score sheet or the little tiny spot on our score on our overall schedule. You can put down when a match started and say, hey, at 45 minutes, if we are here, match is over. If it's 1-1 at that point, just do a 10-point tie break to finish out the match. Because although most of these matches go fairly quickly, once in a while you want to get that one that goes to tiebreaker, 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 and it could take 2 hours, depending on who we have playing, who we have gathering balls. So you might want to come up with that. It's rare that it comes into play, but it does occasionally. So something to think about, a time limit for matches. Team tie break procedure, we've already talked about that. The first is the sets lost. Second is games lost overall. That could come up. Again, if you keep track of that as the tournament goes, it's done. It's done. You have a tie, and overall points, it's just already done. Discretion of the tournament director, add additional time, regulation time allocation if somebody's delaying on purpose. That's rare. It's typically not kids as much as it might be a coach. We've run into before, coaches telling, well, you're winning, so slow down because the time limit's almost here. We don't want that happening. So hopefully as tournament director, you won't have to make that decision. In order to highlight teams playing, courts are kept clear. Coaches can only coach from fenced areas during changeovers, which are the odd games and in between sets. That is it. They are only to go onto the court in case of emergency. Parents are certainly never allowed out on the courts, and they're not allowed to coach. I know this seems, I don't know what it seems. It seems a little crazy considering, our athletes out there. But barring a meltdown or an accident, an emergency, we need to stay off the course. We want to legitimize our unified tennis, the same as varsity tennis is played, USTA tennis is played. If we want to do that, we have to coach during changeovers from the fence. So integrity of games, we want, obviously, integrity. We want people making good line calls. We want all rules being enforced. It can't be something where you have somebody serving, well, I've been serving all year, bouncing the ball first. Well, that's not the integrity of the sport. That's not what we're playing. The ball can't be bounced first. This is just an example that we've run into. You must strike the serve out of the air. We have many accommodations, but one of them can't be changing the rules for individual athletes, because then we're changing for everybody. We have no integrity. So sports information, the tournament director or Special Olympics Maryland Players thoroughly review the coach's resource guide. Here we go. Points of emphasis on things like our line calls, meaningful involvement, again, where we don't have our partner hitting 95% of the balls while the athlete stands and watches. If the ball is to the athlete must strike the ball. Now, we understand that occasionally the partner is going to jump in front or run behind and make a play. That's part of the game. But you can see this when it's happening. If this does happen, opposing coaches need to contact the referee or the tournament director. You cannot address it yourself. What you can do, you can say something to the opposing coach, like say, hey, what's going on here? This all here doesn't look right. It doesn't look like meaningful involvement here. I mean, your athlete's not touching the ball, and your partner is doing everything. If that doesn't work out, then go up to a referee or go up to the tournament director, stop play, have somebody over there to observe for a moment, make sure everything's legit. It's something, especially at the state level, where we run into this every year. And to be honest, a lot of times the coach that's complaining is right. Sometimes not. We want to make sure we have that. We want to make sure our individual skills competition, everything's correct, everything's done right there. So your control center, make sure you have a control center. It should have 2 big tables, at least cover 10 if you can come up with one in case you get a drizzle or because of intense sun. Make sure it's a place centrally located so that everybody knows where it is, can find it easily. You have to have a public address system for all the opening ceremonies, closing ceremonies, announcements, like especially if you're calling out matches, if you're in a large area, it's much easier to call out matches than it is to chase coaches and players down all over creation. So we also can stage our players, as we talk about. If you know their matches are coming up, say you have 1 through 8 on, you know 2 of them are almost over, have those players from 9 and 10 check in, sit there, and as soon as it's time to go out, get them going, instead of chasing them down for 5 or 6 minutes and having the court open, because that adds up. Results, serving director will determine orderly, official way of receiving, tabulating, posting them. Again, they're all going to be at the central control center there. You should go. Make sure you keep everything. Don't write down score, things like that, and then just pitch them or what happens, because then if you have an issue, we have nothing to look back on. Okay, we can go farther. Scratches. This is big. If you have scratches, report them as soon as you check in. Now, occasionally you're going to get there and think, okay, everybody's coming, and you get a call half an hour later saying, well, so-and-so just got sick. They can't come anymore. That's going to happen. But primarily, if you know there's scratches, let us know. Let your tournament director know immediately, because that way we can start allocating the courts differently. We can go ahead and start figuring out some things out in the rotation or our schedule so things go quicker. And we're not confused later on, like, well, where is this person? What's going on? What's happening? You can also then go ahead and let us know who your substitute player is going to be, knowing that it's just going to be exhibition. Now, if there is a scratch, that's different. A scheduled exhibition where only one team can get a point, the team that could get a point has to earn it. If you have a scratch at the last minute like this, the day of, or even a couple days of, we've had them scratch beforehand, a couple days before, then that other team automatically gets the victory. They don't have to all of a sudden play a different team and have to try and win. Protest must be filed in 15 minutes of completion of a match. This has to be misinterpretation of rules, not judgment calls. A line call, for example, is a judgment call. You can't protest a match as a line call. First, protest need to be submitted in writing to the control tent. The rules committee will review it, and deliver a decision quickly. Make sure that those people are determined prior. I like that, have at least 2, preferably 3. That way you're going to have a majority either way. And make sure, if you're somebody, say you're on the rules committee, and it's somebody then from your school, recuse yourself from that. Don't go ahead and make a decision, even if you know you're being objectively fair. It's best to not make a decision regarding your own school. So, Melissa, do you want to go on, or do you want to go to questions about that before we move on to the rest?
I'll just say that the rest of the document, and then we'll go to questions.
Okay.
Section 4 is more administrative, being ready and making sure we're in touch with regard to implement weather plans. Section 5 is gravely essential and pertinent to your preparation. It is, for all intents and purposes, a checklist of everything that needs to at least have some consideration, things that we've went over here this evening and things that might go by the wayside. So that's, like I said, very almost invaluable. So just wanted to bring that up as well. Just a couple points to underscore with what with regard to what Kevin covered. Please make sure when you are collecting and calculating the scores and the results, this supplement here, the team scoring display, this should be hopefully a large printout, as large as you can make it, available and posted in a central location at the control center, or for spectators and coaches to keep track of as the day goes on, as competition goes on. Time and time again, feedback has been the matches are going on, they're going on, and the displayed score tallies were not kept up. So all of a sudden at the end of the tournament, lo and behold, a team is declared the winner, and people just like to know as the progression of the tournament goes on how they are performing in comparison to the others as they again work to earn advancement to the state tournament. Another point to make sure everyone realizes, I am working with a USTA officials assigner, trying to hire an official, a roving official for each tournament. We do have some tournaments that are going to be conducted during the school day. As you know, we'll be up against daylight. So it is somewhat difficult to hire those individuals. Kevin, in his role as both a USTA official and highly connected through the tennis ranks, is going to try to identify people to serve in this capacity if I'm not able to hire one through my contact. So you will, we are making every effort to have a very tennis knowledgeable person to make the calls on site, the tough calls, administer tiebreakers, so on and so forth throughout the day to do those tennis-specific tasks. So please know that. Also, with regard to all of the supplements that you see, you will receive that are relevant to competition, like, for example, the score sheet. You will receive that as a separate attachment to the follow-up email you receive first thing in the morning, as well as another example of a supplemented attachment is the individual skills station and the skills score card. So you don't need to pull that directly from the booklet or the host manual. Those will be separate attachments. That's all I had, Kevin. We can open up now for questions. We're right at the 1 hour mark. We'll open up for questions. If you have muted your line, please again select *6 to unmute. If you do have a question, please state your name and the county you are working with. As well, keep in mind if it's not a question that possibly is good for the group. As Kevin stated, we are happy to work with you offline, and I will include Kevin's contact information, Allie's contact information, so that they can guide you through the preparations as necessary. So with that, I'll pause and open up for questions. Again, *6 will unmute your line. Okay, not hearing anyone talking. Just pause for another moment. Okay.
Yeah, Dave Morstead, North Dorchester.
Yes, Dave.
Yeah, I just are the equipment and balls, is that all provided by you, or do we need to order something, or how does that work?
Good question. No, all the balls will be ordered, paid for by Special Olympics Maryland. We will work with you offline to identify where exactly that should be shipped. We'll also get a banner to you in some capacity so that the tournament is properly identified and easily identified, I should say, to passerby. Yes, good question.
Okay, thank you. And Kevin, any insight to getting the Excel stuff done? I'd be more than happy to listen for some advice. Let me know.
Okay.
Great. Any other questions? All right. Again, thank you again, all of you, for the time you put in thus far and the time that you will put in going forward, both your time, expertise, and added effort. As mentioned previously, this is the culminating season-ending experience for at least two-thirds of the student athletes. So we want to make sure that this is a great tournament with prestige and esteem that the student athletes deserve as they compete for the right to advance to the state tournament. you can expect an email first thing in the morning with the host manual again, the supplements as separate attachments, and then as well the Allie and Kevin's contact information. So look forward to working with you all, and please let us know how we can support you. Thanks again. Kevin, Allie, anything else?
I think I'm all good. Thanks again. Again, if you have any questions, let us know, and try to get all this done at least 3 days before your tournament.
Great. And signing off. Have a good night, everyone.